Okay, let's continue our discussion of the respiratory system. So, we'll continue with the trachea. So we just finished the the larynx. Let's now go to the trachea. So here's the trachea. These pens, the trachea. Okay. So basically a long tube down through the neck region. And it has these rings on it called tracheal rings. Tracheal rings. So the rings are C-shaped like this. Open in the back. And their job is to keep the airways open. So open airways. So you never collapse the trachea because of these hard rings in there that keep it open. You have, in between the rings, you have this membrane that seals them. Okay, the membrane there we call your annular ligaments. Okay, there. So that's the trachea to bring the air down from the larynx. Then at the point of the end of the trachea, it will branch. Branch to the right and to the left. Okay. So the first branching that happens is what we call the primary bronchus. Oh, sorry, back on the trachea a little bit. The trachea, these rings are C-shaped like this, which means they're open in the back. So in the back of them, there's a muscle there. That muscle back here is called your trachealis muscle. It's used to squeeze them, like it can relax or tighten the tracheal rings to force air in and out. For example, if you cough, that muscle uses to kind of like pulse the trachea, squeeze the rings harder so that you can push air out faster. So that's the job of your trachealis muscle. It's also collapsible in that food behind it. So back behind it here would be your esophagus back here. So when food goes through the esophagus, it can push into the trachea to use that space on its way down. Again, another reason why you don't swallow and breathe at the same time, because you try to use the same airway again, the same passageway there. Okay, back to your bronchus. So the bronchus is where the trachea ends, and you have a right bronchus and the left bronchus. Okay, the right one is shorter, so I drew shorter intentionally. It's shorter than the left one. Okay, partly because it has a branch into the right lung differently than the left one does. So then these primary bronchus, as they, so called primary, put the one with a little zero on top of it, that means primary. So as they descend into the lungs, okay, they branch again. So let's try it. So the primary bronchus here on the left side would branch like so into two, we're called secondary bronchus. So these are now secondary ones here, secondaries. Over here, the right ones would branch 3 times. Okay, so come down, a branch here, branch there, and branch there. Okay, like this. So 3 branches coming off the right side. So you have 2 primary bronchi on the left side and 3 of them on the right side. And these secondary bronchi will then bring the air into the lungs. So these are your lungs like these. This is your lung on the right side. So, okay. Then you have your different lobes of the lung. Okay, so each lobe gets air from a secondary bronchus on the right side, left side. right? You only have 2 lobes like that. And each is fed by its own secondary bronchus. So now as the bronchi go into the lungs, they branch and branch and branch. Just follow on. So this one will branch some more. This branch, and then branch some more, and then some more like that. And they all do that. They all branch and branch and branch, right? And branch and branch and branch and branch. Now, as they branch, they basically fill up your lungs, or they can basically make the lungs up that way. So long as it's basically made of a bunch of tubes in tiny, tiny branches. As they branch, they get smaller and smaller and thinner. Eventually, they get so thin that air can walk across them. Okay, that's the whole point of it. Up here, it's so thick, air cannot cross over. But at some point, these branches become very thin, and air can walk across, and that's when gas exchange occurs there. Okay, so we name these branching things differently. Okay, so let's see how that works. So initially, this is your primary bronchus here. So if it's above, say, bigger than 1 millimeter, okay, we call it a bronchus. A bronchus is bigger than 1 millimeter. When it branches, right, into smaller structures yet, once becomes, say, less than 1 millimeter, we call it a bronchiole. Bronchiole. And it branches again, branches, that. Eventually, if the diameter across is, say, around 0.5 millimeter, then we call these terminal bronchioles. So you go from primary bronchus, or bronchus, to bronchioles, to terminal bronchioles around 0.5 millimeter. And then your terminal bronchioles then will branch some more. So your terminal bronchioles, so this is TB, terminal bronchioles, they will then branch into smaller things yet, called your respiratory bronchioles, okay? And once you enter into the respiratory bronchiole zone, now you're in your respiratory zone. So at this point, you can start to exchange gases at the level of the respiratory bronchioles. Before that, all the way up to here, TB, that's all part of your conduction zone. Bringing the air in without exchanging the gases at all. Okay, so then these respiratory bronchioles eventually end up in these sacs, okay, called your alveolar sacs, these things. Okay. Alveolar sacs containing alveoli, okay. And then the duct that runs down the middle of the sac here, call that your alveolar duct. So you have your respiratory bronchioles ending in blind alveolar sacs, and the center of the sac is called your alveolar duct. All right. Now a little bit more on the sac. So let's draw another sac here. So here is an alveolus. There. This is a sac made up of several alveoli. Okay. And when you send the blood to the lungs, to your pulmonary trunk, eventually they form pulmonary capillaries. So these capillaries then will cover the alveoli like this. So cover the alveoli, the capillaries. So here is blood, and here is oxygen in the lungs. So this interface, the border between say a blood vessel here and an alveoli here. Here's alveoli, your capillaries over here. Okay, so this border between the two is called your respiratory membrane. And it's across this membrane that your blood will send across into the lungs CO2, and your lungs sends into the blood oxygen. That's where your exchange of gases occur, inside the alveoli, between the alveoli and the capillaries that surround them. Okay, so please note that it occurs across the respiratory membrane. Some more things on the alveoli. So your alveoli, right, these things, okay, they have in them these things called pores. So this is the alveolar pores. And they allow for air to pass between all the alveoli to equalize the pressure across the lungs, okay? So they're all basically connected by the pores among them. Also, there are about 300 to 400 million alveoli. So they're quite numerous. Sometimes when you have long conditions that you start to lose them, like for example, in emphysema or in smoking, sometimes you have some extras to go. That's why you may not have symptoms of the disease until much later on, when it's probably too far gone. But there are quite a few alveoli there to allow for you to efficiently do this each time the blood comes to your lungs, to exchange gases there. Now, in these alveoli, the walls of the walls of the alveoli have cells in them. So these cells that make up the alveoli, okay, cells like so. These cells that make up the wall of the alveoli, they call you type 1 cells. Type 1 cells, their job, they basically form the wall. Then you also have cells in the alveoli that hang out inside there to find pathogens. We call these your macrophages. Okay, they fight lung infections, get rid of debris out of the lungs. You also have some other cell types in the lungs. Yeah, so these cells are called your type 2 cells. And these cells make something called surfactants, a fluid that allows for the lungs to expand more easily. Okay, so there's less tension there, so it's easier to expand, inflate, especially in premature babies. So that's the alveoli and the respiratory membrane. Okay, and then let's pause here.